Ethan Walker never imagined that an ordinary day at the Galactic Cultural Exchange Hub would change his life forever. The hub was always busy, filled with strange voices, unusual colors, and shapes that belonged to beings from dozens of different worlds. For him, it was work. He was a young linguist, a human among many aliens trying to understand new languages and share Earth's culture with those who had never even heard of it before. He enjoyed the challenge, even if most aliens thought humans were small, fragile, and not very impressive. That morning, he was working with Lyra, his Scifi colleague. Lyra was tall, graceful, and carried the crystal-like glow of her people. Her skin shimmered like a prism under the hub's lights, and her voice always sounded like music, soft and clear. Ethan admired her, but only in the way one admired someone from a distance, someone too different to truly imagine anything personal with. She had been kind to him, patient when he made mistakes with translation, and even curious about Earth's culture. To Ethan, she was a good friend, maybe his best friend in the entire station. But then she looked at him with calm, steady eyes and said words that knocked the air out of him. "My family has decided that we should marry, human." Ethan blinked. For a long second he thought he had misunderstood her. Maybe the translator device had made an error, or maybe she had chosen the wrong word. But no, her expression was serious and her tone was as steady as always. "Wait, what?" he managed to say. His voice cracked, which only made his confusion worse. "Marry? As in marriage? You mean you and me?" Lyra tilted her head slightly, a gesture her people used when they thought something obvious was being denied. "Yes, we have worked together for almost 2 cycles. That is more than enough time. My family has observed this bond and believes it is proper. They wish for us to formalize it." Ethan's mind spun. On Earth, marriage was a huge step, one that came after years of love, commitment, and choice. Here, it sounded like she was describing a casual business decision. "But we're just friends. We work together. That's it." Lyra's glowing eyes softened with confusion. "Friends? You use this word often, but I do not fully understand it. You share your time with me. You rely on me. You bring me food when I forget to eat. And you have spoken of your family to me. In Scifi culture, that is beyond friendship. That is a bond of life." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, trying to process this. "Where I come from, friends do all that too. It doesn't mean we have to get married." Lyra blinked, clearly struggling to follow. "On your world, bonds are weaker. If one trusts, supports, and shares with another, does it not mean they are chosen for life?" Her words made him hesitate. He had never thought of friendship in such heavy terms. To humans, friendship was strong but not binding. To Lyra's people, it was sacred, something not separate from love. Ethan tried to laugh, though his voice shook. "This has to be a misunderstanding. We don't do things this fast. We usually ask, then date, then maybe think about marriage years later." "Years?" Lyra echoed, surprised. "Your kind waits years when the bond is already clear? You risk losing it? That is strange." For a moment they simply stared at each other, 2 different worlds colliding in silence. Ethan wanted to run, to hide, to pretend this was not happening. But he also saw the seriousness in Lyra's eyes. She was not joking. She was not trying to trick him. For her, this was real. "Lyra," he said slowly, trying to stay calm. "I don't know if I can do this. I'm not saying you're not amazing, you are, but this is just sudden. My family back home wouldn't believe me if I told them I was marrying someone from another planet. They'd think I've lost my mind." Her glow dimmed slightly, a sign of disappointment. "But my family has already prepared. They are expecting you. They believe you are honorable. If you refuse, they will be ashamed." The weight of her words pressed down on Ethan. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about her family, her people, her culture. He thought about how humans were always seen as weak, unimportant newcomers in this galactic community. If he rejected this, would it make humanity look worse? His stomach twisted. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this or if he even understood what this meant. But Lyra's calm, steady presence made him want to try, even if every part of his human brain screamed that this was insane. At last he sighed and whispered, "Okay, let's meet your family first, then we'll see." Lyra's glow brightened again and she nodded once. "You will not regret it, human. This is the beginning of something greater than you can imagine." Ethan swallowed hard, already imagining all the ways this could go wrong. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, this could change his life in ways he never expected. Ethan had never felt so nervous in his life. The thought of meeting Lyra's family filled him with equal parts curiosity and fear. Back on Earth, meeting someone's parents was already stressful, but this was on another level. He wasn't just meeting a family, he was stepping into the heart of an alien culture that saw him as their future son-in-law. Lyra led him through the docking bay of the exchange hub. Her long, elegant form moved with quiet confidence, and the glow of her crystalline skin caught the station lights like a living prism. Ethan followed close behind, trying not to stare too much at the strange looks other aliens gave them. A small human walking beside a tall, glowing Sarathi. It was impossible not to attract attention. They entered the Sarathi bioship, a vessel unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It wasn't made of steel and metal like human ships. It pulsed with life, its walls soft and smooth, glowing faintly as though the ship itself was breathing. The air smelled fresh like flowers after rain, and faint lights danced along the corridors as if the ship was guiding their path. This is alive," Ethan whispered, running his fingers along the wall. "Yes," Lyra replied calmly. "The ship is part of us. It responds to our needs. Do not be afraid if it moves." As if on cue, the wall rippled under Ethan's hand, making him jerk back in surprise. Lyra smiled gently, her crystalline eyes reflecting his nervousness. "It knows you are new." Ethan tried to smile back, though his heart raced. Every step deeper into the ship reminded him how far away he was from the world he understood. At last, they entered a large chamber where Lyra's family waited. The room shimmered with soft light, and 7 Sarathi stood in a graceful arc, their bodies tall and radiant, each with different patterns of crystal-like skin. Ethan felt his breath catch in his throat. They looked majestic, almost too beautiful to be real. Lyra stepped forward and bowed her head slightly, a gesture of respect. "Mother, father, honored kin, I bring Ethan Walker of Earth as you requested." All eyes turned to him. Ethan felt like a small animal being examined by giants. Their gazes were sharp but curious, glowing softly with colors that shifted like stained glass. He cleared his throat and gave an awkward wave. Hello. It's nice to meet you all." One of them, taller than the rest with deep violet crystals along his arms, stepped forward. "So this is the human," he said, his voice like resonant chimes. "He is smaller than I imagined," Ethan flushed. He had expected that kind of comment, but hearing it aloud still stung. "Yeah, humans are compact," he replied, forcing a smile. To his surprise, a few of the Sarathi gave a sound like soft bells. It took him a second to realize they were laughing. Lyra's eyes widened slightly as if she hadn't expected that reaction either. Another relative, her skin glowing in soft gold, leaned closer to examine Ethan. "He is fragile. His body does not carry energy like ours. How will he protect you, Lyra?" Ethan shifted uncomfortably, not sure how to answer. But before he could say anything, Lyra spoke. "He does not need to protect me." "He brings something else. What is that?" asked another, tilting her head. Ethan swallowed and decided to take the risk. "Humor," he said simply. "Humans may not be the strongest, but we can laugh even when things are difficult. We find joy where others might not." There was silence for a long moment. Ethan wondered if he had said the wrong thing. Then slowly the tall violet Sarathi gave another soft chime of amusement. "Humor. Yes, I felt it when he answered me. Strange, refreshing." The golden-skinned Sarathi studied him more carefully. Perhaps there is more to him than the surface shows. Ethan felt a flicker of relief. Maybe he wasn't a complete failure. The meeting continued with questions about Earth, about human customs, about his life. Ethan did his best to answer honestly, though he often felt clumsy. He explained family dinners, human stories, even little jokes that made Lyra's younger sibling laugh out loud. For a moment, Ethan forgot his fear and just spoke as himself, sharing the small pieces of humanity that seemed ordinary to him, but fascinating to them. As the evening ended, Lyra's father, the Violet One, spoke again. "Human, you are unlike us in every way, yet you carry a spirit that is curious. Perhaps this marriage is not as strange as it first seemed." Ethan nearly collapsed with relief. He wasn't sure if that was approval or just cautious acceptance, but it was better than outright rejection. When they left the chamber, Lyra glanced at him. Her glow was brighter than before, a sign of pride. "You did well, Ethan. My family is not easy to impress." Ethan let out a shaky laugh. "I thought I was going to faint in there, but..." think they didn't hate me. That's a start, right?
Yes, Lyra said softly.
It is a beginning. As they walked back through the glowing halls of the bioship, Ethan realized something. For the first time since this madness began, he didn't feel like he was drowning. Maybe, just maybe, he could survive this after all. Ethan thought meeting Lyra's family would be the hardest part of this strange situation, but he quickly learned he was wrong. The very next day, Lyra explained what came next. In Scifi culture, marriage was not simply a choice or a ceremony. It required a test, a deep union called soul resonance. When she said those words, Ethan had no idea what they meant. Soul resonance is how our people bind, Lyra told him as they walked through the quiet gardens of the bioship. Crystal flowers glowed softly around them, their petals shifting colors as if they were alive with emotion. We do not sign contracts or make promises with words. We open our thoughts and share them until they join. Only then can the bond be true. Ethan stopped walking. Wait, you're saying mind reading? Like actually sharing thoughts? Lyra tilted her head, calm as ever. Yes, it is natural for us, but it is not easy for outsiders. No human has ever attempted this. The words made his stomach twist. He wasn't even sure he understood his own thoughts half the time. How was he supposed to open them to someone else? And if I can't do it? He asked quietly. Then the bond will not be accepted, Lyra said, her voice gentle but firm. My family will see you as unworthy. The union will end. Ethan stared at the glowing flowers, his heart pounding. He had never asked for any of this, yet here he was, standing on the edge of something impossible. Part of him wanted to run back to Earth, hide in his small apartment, and forget he had ever stepped into the stars. But another part of him, the stubborn part, refused to give up so easily. He looked back at Lyra. Okay, then teach me. Show me what I have to do. Her crystalline skin glimmered faintly brighter, a sign of approval. Very well. We will begin. The next hours were spent in quiet focus. Lyra guided him through breathing exercises, teaching him how to still his racing human mind. Do not fight your thoughts, she explained. Let them flow. Imagine them as light drifting without weight. Ethan tried, though it was far from easy. His mind kept bouncing. Memories of childhood, worries about his parents back on Earth, even random songs he couldn't stop humming in his head. Lyra watched him with patience, but he could see her doubt in the way her glow dimmed each time he lost focus. Finally, frustrated, he laughed at himself. This is hopeless. I can't even sit still without thinking about pizza. Lyra's eyes flickered with curiosity. Pizza? Ethan chuckled. It's food. Flatbread with cheese and… never mind. The point is, humans don't really do quiet minds. We're messy. We think about everything at once. She was silent for a moment, then said softly, Maybe that is not a weakness. Maybe it is simply your way. That gave Ethan an idea. Instead of fighting his thoughts, he let them run free. He remembered his childhood room filled with books and music, the sound of rain on Earth rooftops, the laughter of his sister, the warmth of family dinners. He didn't push these thoughts away. He invited them in. Slowly, he felt something shift. Lyra's glow brightened, her eyes widening slightly. I can hear them. Not the words, but the feelings. Warmth, comfort, music. Ethan's breath caught. You can? That's me. That's how I remember home. For the first time since this began, Lyra's perfect calm broke into something close to wonder. Your way is different, but it is strong. You connect through memory, through heart. They sat in silence, the glow around them growing brighter as their minds brushed together. Ethan felt her presence in a way he couldn't explain. Not words, not images, but emotions like colors bleeding into his own. He felt her calm strength, her deep loyalty, her quiet loneliness she never spoke about, and she felt his messy but genuine human soul, full of laughter and longing and stubborn hope. The resonance pulsed between them, faint but real. When it ended, Ethan was shaking, his chest heavy as if he had run a marathon. Lyra studied him carefully. You did it. It was clumsy, uneven, but it was real. I did not think it possible. Ethan let out a tired laugh. Story of my life. Clumsy, but real. For a moment, Lyra simply watched him. Then she said softly, Perhaps the galaxy was wrong about your kind. Perhaps there is more to humans than we believed. Ethan didn't know what to say. He only knew one thing. Somehow, against all odds, he had taken the first step into something greater than himself. And though it terrified him, it also filled him with a strange, unshakable hope. News in the galaxy traveled faster than light. Ethan soon discovered that his strange bond with Lyra had not stayed private. Somehow, word spread through the exchange hub, and from there it spread to the wider networks that connected hundreds of alien worlds. By the end of the week, every corridor he walked through felt different. Aliens of all shapes and sizes stared at him, whispered in their languages, and sometimes even pointed as he passed. At first, Ethan thought he was imagining it, but Lyra confirmed it with her usual calm voice. "The Council has heard," she told him. "They know a human and a Scifi have achieved resonance. It is not something they can ignore." Ethan groaned, putting his face in his hands. "Great. I always wanted to be famous, but not like this." Lyra tilted her head. "You do not wish for recognition?" "Not when it feels like everyone's waiting for me to fail," he muttered. She gave no answer, but her glow softened, which Ethan had learned was her way of showing quiet support. The first sign of the galaxy's reaction came during a routine meeting at the cultural hub. Ethan usually sat quietly, taking notes while Lyra represented her people. But this time every delegate seemed to have eyes on him. A representative from the tall insect-like Korath clicked his mandibles and asked openly, "Is it true? A fragile human has bonded with a Scifi?" The room filled with murmurs. Some aliens leaned closer, clearly intrigued. Others made sounds of disbelief or even disgust. Ethan wished he could sink under the table, but Lyra sat straighter. "It is true. The resonance was achieved." The Korath tilted its many-eyed head. "Impossible. Humans are too unformed. Your minds are scattered, without discipline." Ethan winced. He wanted to argue, but Lyra spoke first. "He succeeded because he did not try to be like us. He used what is natural to him." Another delegate, a feathered being from the Avari, gave a high whistle of curiosity. What was his method? Lyra glanced at Ethan, and for a moment he thought she might stay silent. But then she said, "He shared memory, feeling, fragments of his world. Music, warmth, joy. It was different, but it was real." The murmurs grew louder. Some voices sounded doubtful, others excited. Ethan sat frozen, unsure whether to feel proud or embarrassed. All he had done was think about pizza and family dinners, and now it was a galactic debate. After the meeting, a small group of younger delegates approached him. They were from different species, each carrying their own strange shapes and colors. One of them, a small green being with eyes like gems, asked shyly, "Human, will you tell us more about your world?" "About the music?" Ethan blinked. Sure. What do you want to know?" The group listened as he explained guitars, pianos, even the simple act of singing. He hummed a few lines of an earth song under his breath, and their eyes widened in fascination. "We use sound as signal," the Avari delegate whispered, feathers trembling. "But you use it to share feeling. That is rare." For the first time since the bond, Ethan felt something new. He wasn't just a curiosity. He was interesting, but not all reactions were kind. Later that day, Ethan overheard two older delegates muttering in the corridor. "This human marriage is a mistake," one said sharply. "If the Scifi lower themselves to bond with such weak creatures, what message does it send?" Ethan walked faster, pretending he hadn't heard, but the words burned in his chest. He had always known humans were considered insignificant out here, but hearing it spoken so plainly hurt more than he expected. That night, as he sat in his small station quarters, Lyra came to see him. She stood quietly by the door until he finally sighed and said, "They're right, you know. I'm not special. I'm just me, a human who gets nervous and messes up and thinks about food too much. Why would anyone take me seriously?" Lyra moved closer, her glow warm and steady. "Because you are honest," she said softly. "Because you show your heart without fear. The others hide behind pride or tradition. You do not." Ethan looked at her, searching for any sign of doubt, but found none. She believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. Somehow that made all the difference. In the days that followed, the story continued to grow. Some alien groups mocked it, others praised it, and still others debated what it meant for humanity's place among the stars. For Ethan, it was overwhelming. Yet through it all, he began to notice a subtle shift. Wherever he went, beings who had never looked at him twice before now stopped him, asked questions, or simply regarded him with a little more curiosity than before. He was no longer invisible. Humanity was no longer invisible. Late one evening, as he and Lyra watched the stars from the viewing deck, Ethan whispered, "Do you think the galaxy will ever accept this?" "Us?" Lyra's crystalline skin shimmered softly in the starlight. Perhaps not at once. Change is slow. But every great shift begins with something small. One bond, one laugh, one song. Ethan smiled faintly, the weight in his chest a little lighter. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he felt like maybe he and Lyra had already begun to change something far greater than themselves. Ethan thought the hardest part was over after the resonance test. But Lyra soon explained that one final step stood between them and marriage. It was called the Trials of Compatibility, an ancient Scifi tradition that tested whether two partners could truly live as one. When Ethan first heard about it, he nearly panicked. Trials? Like tests? What kind of tests? Lyra answered with her usual calm tone. They are not tests of knowledge or strength. They are meant to reveal the bond. We will face them together and the elders will judge. That didn't calm him at all. And what happens if I fail? Lyra's glow dimmed just slightly. Then the union cannot continue. Ethan groaned, covering his face with his hands. No pressure, huh? The trials were held in a vast chamber within the Scifi bioship, a place of light and shifting colors. Dozens of Scifi elders gathered to observe, their crystalline bodies glowing in solemn patterns. The air itself seemed to vibrate with quiet expectation. Ethan stood beside Lyra, trying not to shake while she radiated steady confidence. The first trial was the test of endurance. A series of shifting platforms formed across the chamber floor, glowing as they rose and fell in unpredictable rhythms. The couple had to cross together without falling. Ethan looked at the platforms, then at Lyra. You realize I'm not exactly built for alien obstacle courses, right? Lyra's lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. Then adapt. That is what humans do best. With that, she stepped onto the first platform. Ethan followed, wobbling as it shifted beneath him. The Scifi moved gracefully, her balance flawless, while Ethan nearly tripped 3 times before the second platform. But when he saw he couldn't keep up with her speed, he had an idea. Wait, he said, holding out his hand. Don't go ahead. Match me. Lyra paused, then nodded and slowed down. They began to move together, step by step, Ethan guiding her to match his rhythm. When a platform moved too quickly, he crouched low and pulled her with him. When one tilted dangerously, she steadied him with her hand. By the time they reached the end, they were not moving as 2 individuals, but as a single pair. The elders murmured softly. Ethan couldn't tell if that was approval, but Lyra's glow brightened, which gave him hope. The second trial was the test of empathy. They stood in front of a crystal structure that reflected emotions. The challenge was simple. Each partner had to share a memory that revealed their heart, and the other had to receive it with full understanding. Lyra went first. She closed her eyes and the crystal shimmered with light. Ethan saw visions in his mind, not clear pictures, but feelings. He felt her loneliness as a child, her desire to live up to her family's expectations, her quiet wish for someone who would see her not just as a Scifi, but as herself. When the vision ended, Ethan's throat was tight. I understand, he whispered. And he meant it. Then it was his turn. Nervously, he closed his eyes and let the memory rise. He thought of his small earth home, of rainy nights when his family would gather around a table with simple food, laughing even when life was hard. He thought of warmth, of belonging, of the way humans carried each other through struggle. Lyra's glow softened as she received it. You value connection, she said gently. Not perfection, not strength, just togetherness. That's family, Ethan said quietly. The crystal pulsed warmly as if approving. The elders whispered again, some surprised, others thoughtful. The third and final trial was the test of unity. It required both of them to lift a radiant sphere of energy, something heavy and unstable, and place it onto a pedestal together. Ethan tried to lift his side and nearly dropped it. The thing was heavier than anything he had ever touched. Lyra easily balanced her side, but the sphere shook wildly whenever Ethan struggled. I can't, he gasped. It's too much. Yes, you can, Lyra said firmly, her eyes glowing bright. Do not think of it as weight. Think of it as balance. Guide, don't force. Ethan closed his eyes, took a shaky breath, and stopped trying to lift with brute strength. Instead, he adjusted his grip, shifted his stance, and let Lyra's strength carry most of it while he steadied the movement. Slowly, carefully, they raised the sphere together and set it on the pedestal. When it locked into place, the entire chamber filled with a bright resonance, a sound like harmonious bells ringing. The elders rose, their bodies glowing in approval. "The trials are complete," one elder announced. "The bond holds." Ethan let out a long, shaky laugh of relief. His legs felt like jelly, but his heart felt lighter than ever. He glanced at Lyra, who simply nodded once, calm and proud. Later, as they left the chamber, Ethan whispered, "I thought I was going to embarrass myself." "You did not," Lyra replied softly. "You showed them something new. You showed them humanity." Ethan smiled faintly, realizing she was right. He hadn't won the trials with strength or perfection. He had survived with clumsy honesty, with stubborn hope, and with a willingness to adapt. And somehow that was enough. The day of the marriage ceremony arrived, and Ethan could feel his nerves buzzing from the moment he woke up. He had survived the trials, earned the approval of Lyra's family, and proven that a human could succeed in ways no one expected. Yet standing at the threshold of the ceremonial chamber, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear. The chamber itself was breathtaking. It was enormous, with walls that shimmered like liquid crystal and a floor that glowed softly underfoot. Light flowed along the ceiling in shifting colors, creating patterns that seemed to move in harmony with the couple's emotions. Hundreds of Scifi gathered in elegant arcs, their crystalline forms glowing in anticipation. Ethan felt small and ordinary among them, but Lyra's calm presence beside him was grounding. "Remember," she said quietly, "this is about unity, not perfection. Be yourself. That is what matters." Ethan swallowed and nodded. "Right, be myself. Got it." As the ceremony began, Lyra stepped forward first, her form radiant and graceful. She extended her hand to him. Ethan took it, feeling the soft warmth of her glow seeping into his own nervous energy. The officiant, a Scifi elder with deep violet crystals, spoke in a voice that resonated like gentle chimes. "Today we witness the union of two beings from different worlds, one from Earth, fragile yet full of heart, one from Scifi, radiant and wise. Their bond is not merely duty but choice, and it is recognized by soul and spirit." Ethan tried to keep his posture steady, but he couldn't help noticing how different everything was. The chamber pulsed with light and time with his heartbeat, and he felt an almost dizzying energy in the air. Lyra squeezed his hand slightly, reminding him silently that he was not alone. The next part was the resonance ritual. Ethan had practiced this before, but never with an audience of hundreds. Lyra stepped closer, placing her free hand over his chest, and he mirrored her. Closing his eyes, he allowed himself to focus, letting thoughts of home, laughter, music, and warmth rise naturally. He expected to fail or falter, but something incredible happened. The chamber seemed to respond to him. The light shifted, brightening, forming intricate patterns around their joined hands. Lyra's glow pulsed in harmony with his heartbeat, and for the first time he understood what it meant to be fully connected. A simple melody escaped his lips, a soft, human song he had hummed as a child. It was not part of the ceremony, and he didn't plan it, but it came naturally. To his astonishment, the music resonated with the light, creating a harmony no Scifi had ever seen. The audience gasped, their eyes widening as the colors around the couple shifted into breathtaking patterns. Lyra's eyes met his, shining with surprise and delight. Your way is different, but it is beautiful," she whispered. The officiant's voice broke through, calm but filled with awe. "Never has a human added music to this ritual. It amplifies the resonance beyond expectation. Truly, this bond is unique." Ethan felt a surge of pride mixed with relief. All the fear, all the doubts, all the clumsy mistakes had led to this moment. Somehow being himself, messy, human, full of emotion, was exactly what was needed. The ceremony continued with the exchange of vows, which in Scifi culture were less words and more feelings shared through subtle pulses of energy. Ethan struggled to follow at first, but Lyra guided him gently. When he opened his heart and allowed his emotions to flow freely, their connection deepened, the patterns of light around them swirling faster, brighter, more beautifully than before. Finally, the officiant raised his hands, signaling the culmination of the ceremony. The chamber was filled with a radiant, warm light, and Ethan felt the energy of hundreds of Scifi embracing their bond. The resonance between him and Lyra reached its peak, uniting their spirits, thoughts, and emotions in a way that was both exhilarating and calming at the same time. When the light faded, Ethan opened his eyes. He was still holding Lyra's hand, and she looked back at him with a smile that was equal parts pride, amusement, and love. Around them, the Scifi applauded, their crystal forms chiming softly like gentle bells. Ethan laughed, a little shaky, but happy. I think we did it, he said, still processing what had just happened. Lyra nodded. Yes, and you did it in a way no one could have predicted. You brought humanity into this tradition, and in doing so, you changed it. The rest of the day passed in a blur of celebration. Guests from the hub and beyond approached to congratulate them. Some were curious, others skeptical, but most were simply amazed that a human had succeeded in a tradition that even many advanced species found difficult. Ethan realized something important. He had not just married Lyra. He had introduced a part of humanity to the galaxy, not through force or power, but through heart, creativity, and connection. As the festivities wound down, Ethan and Lyra found a quiet balcony overlooking the stars. The soft light of distant suns shimmered across the bioship, and the galaxy stretched endlessly before them. Ethan leaned against the railing, holding Lyra close, and for the first time since all of this began, he felt at peace. "Do you think we can really make this work?" he asked quietly. Lyra smiled, her glow reflecting the starlight. "We already have. We survived the trials and we changed tradition. That is proof enough. Together we can face anything." Ethan smiled back, feeling a deep sense of pride and hope. He knew there would be challenges ahead, adjusting to life in her world, understanding alien customs, and navigating the endless curiosity of the galaxy. But for the first time he felt ready, not because he was strong or perfect, but because he was human. And humans had a way of surprising everyone, and somehow, he knew that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Life after the ceremony was different than anything Ethan had imagined. Living on Lyra's bioship was like living inside a dream, a world of soft glowing walls, plants that hummed quietly, and rooms that shifted gently to match the needs of their occupants. At first Ethan struggled. The food glowed, the gravity sometimes shifted slightly, and some of Lyra's relatives could phase through walls. It was overwhelming, but he learned quickly that patience, curiosity, and humor could solve almost anything. Lyra often watched him with quiet amusement. "You are still clumsy," she said one morning as Ethan nearly tripped over a floating table. "I'm adapting," he replied, giving her a mock bow. "Humans are resilient. We survive by stumbling forward." She laughed, a clear musical sound that made the crystal walls shimmer brighter. "That is true. And humans surprise us with their way of thinking. You have changed more than you know." The galaxy had not stopped talking about their marriage. Delegates, scholars, and travelers occasionally visited the bioship to witness the union that had stunned the Scifi. Some came to study the human, curious about his ability to resonate with a Scifi mind. Others simply wanted to see how life unfolded for a human living among alien customs. Ethan quickly realized that his life had become an example, a small symbol that humanity was capable of more than the galaxy had imagined. One evening, as he and Lyra floated among the glowing corridors, Ethan spoke quietly. "Do you ever worry that we'll never fully fit in? That people will always see me as small, weak human?" Lyra took his hand, her glow warm and steady. "I do not worry. You may not be like us, but that is your strength. Humans bring something no other species can: creativity, courage, and heart. That is why you resonate with me. That is why we are stronger together." Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. She was right. He didn't need to be like the Scifi or like any other species. He just needed to be himself, fully human, fully alive. And in doing so, he had earned a place in her world and the respect of those who once doubted him. Over time, Ethan began to explore the galaxy in ways he had never imagined. He and Lyra took short trips to distant systems, observing strange planets, unusual creatures, and ancient ruins. He recorded his experiences, translating human stories into the alien languages of the hubs he visited. Wherever he went, people were fascinated not just by the human who could resonate with a Scifi, but by the humanity he carried with him, the humor, the empathy, the relentless curiosity. Even simple things became adventures. Cooking with Lyra, for example, was a constant source of wonder. She had never tasted Earth food, and Ethan patiently showed her how to make dishes from his childhood. In return, she introduced him to Scifi delicacies that glowed softly or hummed when touched. The combination of flavors, colors, and light amazed both of them. Each meal became a lesson in patience, creativity, and laughter, the very qualities that had first impressed her family. Ethan also learned about Lyra's culture in depth. From the subtle ways the Scifi showed respect, to the songs they shared with the bioship itself, he discovered that humans had a unique gift, the ability to improvise to turn small ideas into moments of joy. The Scifi had never seen a species that could laugh while failing, learn while stumbling, or create connection from awkwardness. He realized that the galaxy had underestimated humanity, not because humans were weak, but because they were unpredictable, creative, and full of heart. One night, as they looked out over the stars, Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled. "Sometimes, but I think Earth is with me wherever I go. I carry it inside me. Memories, stories, music, family. That's what makes me human." Lyra's glow brightened. "And that is why you resonate. Not because you are strong or fast, but because you are real, honest, alive." Ethan leaned closer, feeling a sense of belonging he had never felt before. In this alien world, with a family that had once seemed impossible to impress, he had found a home. He had also discovered that being human was not a limitation. It was a gift. His quirks, his humor, his heart, and even his clumsiness had made him remarkable in a galaxy that often valued power and perfection over connection and creativity. Together, Ethan and Lyra walked through the glowing halls of the bioship, laughing at small mistakes, sharing songs, and dreaming of adventures yet to come. The galaxy watched, curious, surprised, and sometimes envious. But it could not ignore the truth. A human had shown them a new kind of strength. Not one of brute force or domination, but one of connection, empathy, and heart. And as Ethan floated beside Lyra, hand in hand, he understood something essential. Humanity had entered the galaxy not with weapons or power, but with something far stronger. The courage to be fully themselves, the curiosity to explore, and the heart to resonate with others, no matter how different they were. In that moment, Ethan smiled, realizing that this was only the beginning. Together, they were not just married. They were proof that humans could shine in ways no one had expected, a new light in a vast and endless universe.